Now, with less than a year until Nigeria's presidential election, the race is heating up with several political figures vying for the country's top job. While the former Minister of State for Education, Chukwuemeka Nwajiuba, is also jostling for the #1 position on the platform of the governing All Progressives Congress. While he resigned from his job as a minister in keeping with President Buhari's executive order for all political appointees to resign by 16 May, that's today, if they intend to contest for elected office. Well, Chukwuemeka Nwajiuba joins us now in the studio for more on his presidential ambition. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. If you had your way, you will be the next president of Nigeria come 2023, but still a long way to go. First off, I mean, you're coming on the platform of the APC. There's a crowd from the southeast where you come from. What exactly do you think are your chances? What stands you out of this a lot? Not just, you know, with those from the southeast, but generally in this contest.
Thank you, Ngozi, and thank you, Nigerians. I always cherish an opportunity to make a presentation about what it is that we stand for as the APC, which is All Progressives, a Congress for All Progressives. And so what we present to Nigerians is a progressive vision going forward. And we believe that this is the right time to bring a new generation of progressives on board. I have, in the last 30 years, been actively running in almost every political contest since 1992. And having midwifed alongside many other great Nigerians, this government, we felt that it would be very necessary for us to build on all the solid, grounds and foundations that have been laid in the course of these 7 years. Things like TSA, things like BVN, all of that, and a technological growth in the way the country is governed, such that it is important then that a regeneration needs to then take place in the course of what we're doing. When you said I resigned on the orders of the president, I did not resign on the orders of the president. I resigned on the 28th of April in 2022. Right. And this was way ahead because the party had already released its guidelines, and Article 3, Sub-Article L of that guideline did stipulate that anybody who is an appointee and who wants to continue or seek for any of the offices needs to resign 30 days ahead of his own election. And that's what I did.
To be on the safe side?
Not just to be on the safe side. It's actually in conformity with our oath of office as ministers, where you swear not to let your personal interest conflict with your official duties. And that's why, for me as a lawyer, I mean, it presents with me, it had no dilemma at all. It was a straightforward, once you're convinced that this is what you want to do, this is the next line of action. I mean, there's a moral code and there's a legal code that you can just go ahead and do it. It's a question of what integer is your integrate, and you begin to examine yourself along those lines. And that's what we presented to the public. And we think that APC deserves to present to Nigerians a new generation, a workable generation. At 55, I probably represent a bridge between all those who are about to leave the stage and those who are coming on stage. Because this is what I've done in the last 30 years. I've run for all the political offices. I'm probably the only person in the field who is a member of the judiciary, who is a member of the executive and a member of the legislature. There's nobody with this kind of credentials. There's nobody who has the kind of experience. 30 years in politics, in business, in academy, in everything. And we've had the opportunity to midwife a new generation of a way of thinking. And we think Nigeria going forward deserves to begin to build upon the solid foundations of infrastructure, of good roads, network, all of that. All of that will make no meaning if you have nothing to do. If you don't build on that.
Really come back to your plans, really, because now you've talked about continuing where Mr. President really would leave off at the time he leaves office in 2023. Well, you're the one who actually resigned. You're the first person who resigned in the executive cabinet. But I want to actually talk about, you know, the 100 million naira that was placed on that form that you picked up. And Nigerians are wondering, did you actually pay for your own form yourself? Or were you one of those who benefited from the benevolence of people who believe you should succeed President Muhammadu Buhari?
Actually, the truth of the matter is that I've been in politics for maybe 30 years. Like I said, I ran for my first election in 1990. So we already had a political groundwork. And when I became minister, there was what we call the Project Nigeria Foundation. The Project Nigeria Foundation sought to repair schools across the country. We've repaired 122 schools from everywhere. I mean, Hong, Das, any local government you can go to, we identify schools that have pitfalls and then try to repair them. But when things got to a head and we decided that this was all going to do, there are 3,815 people who contributed this money, because the limit was 500,000 naira and the minimum was 500 naira. And over a course of 2 weeks, they contributed. So I also presented the list of the people who contributed, from Jalingo to Jadao to Karuna.
Or did you make a personal contribution?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Not a dime?
No, on the form.
So when you say you have a list, I mean, that's their names.
The names are,
okay.
Because in Access Bank, where they own the accounts, we printed out everybody's name and only deducted those who, in cases where a wife gave more than her husband. So
that's interesting.
I see you're sensitive.
I'm glad you talk about, building schools and all of that as one of the major high points of your career so far, among so many other things. But we will be remiss, if we don't ask you the question. I mean, you apologized to Nigerian students for the ASU strike. And not a few people have frowned at the idea that you would even pick up 100 million naira ticket at a time when there seems to be a crisis within the education system. Why do you think you were not really able to, resolve this crisis before your resignation? What exactly were the challenges? Again,
ASU needs to be put in context.
Right.
ASU is not a creation of this government. This has been around since '82, and that's how we got to TED Fund. ASU has made a lot of gains for the Nigerian education sector. It started out when Nigeria had less than 6 universities. Today we have nearly 50 universities in the of the federal government, with another 33 to 43 universities as state government universities. So we have a complete new paradigm. However, what ASU has been asking is consistently true and good. We need to make sure university education for everybody is available and it's qualitative. That's the objective, and they've been doing a good job about it. Now, what all of that requires is some sort of synergy across board: the funding, the manpower, the ability to deliver on all of the things that we say we want. So all of that is being always the subject of subsequent agreements, whether it be 2009 and so on, and is implementability. So while you can aspire to the best things, resource constraints, human resource constraints as well, managerial constraints, all of those come to play when you want to execute them. The Ministry of Education has no disagreement with ASU on all the things that we are requesting, because all of us are working in the same direction. And I'm a product of the entire public education system. My first degree was in Imo State University. My second degree was Unilag for my LLM, and Unijust for so all of them are all for the PhD. All of them are public institutions. My children, 4 of them, are in Nigerian public universities. In fact, 2 have left. Futo and Osuka produced my lawyer and my civil engineer, first son and first daughter. Now, but the remaining 2 are also in public institutions as we speak, and they are home. So when I apologize to Nigerian parents and students, I'm talking about this way I feel that we have not achieved all of the things that we think we should achieve. And what are those things? I have consistently stayed with ASU to say, and I'm happy they are now agreeing with the Nigerian Religious Council, the NREC, that it is possible to continue to teach while the things that we want to sort out in the universities are sorted out, because all the investment government is making is to produce manpower. So if you miss the bit about producing manpower, you've lost us in the argument about what we do need to give. We can't continue investing for something that we're not getting the output. So let's continue with the output while this is going on. Needs assessment, end salary, end allowances, UTAS or IPs, any of those discussions, all the issues around there can happen while this is going on. I don't have a problem with that.
ASU would argue and tell you that this agreement was actually reached as far back as 2009. Of course, there was a memorandum of action afterwards. But here we are again, still on strike. 15 strikes in 20 years is one too many.
Federal and even though you have on one strike,
well, it's not the federal government. It's ASU, but at the end of the day, it's federal government. It is federal government institutions, and you were Minister of State for Education. So somehow, even if you have resigned, the ghost of ASU strike will still be on you to a certain certain extent.
In other words,
but one wonders,
Ghost of ASU should pursue everybody who has been in government.
Well,
but let me explain, and I've told you repeatedly, there is nothing wrong with what ASU is asking. Remember, we want the same things ASU wants. We want better institutions. We want better pay. We want better care. We want all of that. We agreed on that. Now, in 2009, if you commit to 1.2 trillion and you don't earn 1.2 trillion, you have to manage what you have earned. That's how what is logical in the sense. And while you're doing this, if you do a needs assessment today of Nsukka and ABU and Udus in Sokoto, and you find out what it is that is wrong, you will need to start a contract process. It will not, the buildings and reshape will not happen today. You have to have the needs assessment sent back to the ministries, and then Ministry of Finance, because this has nothing to do with Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education doesn't play any role in this. What we have provided right now is an alternate funding plan. Okay. That is on the table, and I'm sure that Malam Adamu, my elder brother in the Ministry of Education, and the President of the country will continuously consider this. If we are able to achieve this, when I become president, I also show you what the funding plan is. I'm so glad
you talk about when you become president. Yes. How are you going to tackle this, challenges, crisis within Nigeria's tertiary education system? And not only that, in the same breath, I'd like you to address how you would tackle the security. That's another major issue in the minds of Nigerians. The idea that you need a new generation of leaders in Nigeria is now knocking at the door. You need to come with the kind of experience I've come with to understand where we are going. Because Nigeria is no longer the Nigeria of 1972. It's not the Nigeria of 1982. We have 200 million people. Almost 72% of these people are below 50 years, and their demands and their needs are completely different. This is a Twitter generation. This is a digital students. You don't have this same kind of people. In other words, you need to think in terms of the way Nigerians work today to be able to run their affairs, and that comes to what I was trying to explain to you about the opportunity that is presented in the University Autonomy Act, which already all universities are essentially autonomous except for financial autonomy. So federal government must, and I have designed the program that will allow universities earn money from a trusteeship situation instead of a council situation. There's a difference between being a board of director and a board of trusteeship. But this is still within government's discussion, and I'm not sure whether it's open yet for discussion. But that plan is afoot. However, while we're doing this and making the universities financially independent so that they don't need to go through this cycle of continuous strike, because it's costing us a lot of money, because children are leaving Nigeria and costing us foreign exchange flights. So in other words, we're losing money from not having universities become financially independent. So we've designed this, and the program is clear. This is the same thing that you would need to do to address the causes of insecurity around the country. If Zamfara State did not have students enrolled in 1999, and they closed down schools in the 14 local governments of Zamfara, or in the 33 local governments of Sokoto, or across the 120 local governments in the Northeast, one of the things you would find out from this is that these children continue to grow, whether they go to school or not. And then by the time they are 20 years, they would have no income, they will have nothing to do, and become people that Boko Haram or any fighter can immediately learn. And in a cash-driven economy, you then have people who infiltrate them and give them these monies, and they are able to fight. Three things, if you're going to be executing a security master plan, is to first of all get your citizens to build national cohesion. The first thing you do about national cohesion is to give your citizens a sense of participation in their government. Right now, intelligence officers are not getting, people will rather sell intelligence to Boko Haram instead of to our people. So in other words, people don't believe here. So the first thing you need to do, and what my candidacy presents for the country, is to have a buy-in of everybody. I am the bridge between all facets of it. I answer to 90% of the demographics, whether it's the South, whether it's the young, whether it's anybody. I speak to 90% of what it is that Nigerians are worried about. And then bringing it, the Nigerians want an educated person. They want a competent person. They don't want a capable person. Somebody who's proven with some level of experience, the dexterity that is required for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of 209 people, 36 local states. So if you want to coordinate this and bring it together, what you will be looking for is somebody who has the
the energy, the empathy, the enthusiasm, and the experience to work this stuff.
Absolutely.
So
And he's a young
yes, so
man who
you
has
need to
the
bring
energy
that
and the
fillip
right.
so that Nigerians feel that they are part of it. And then you then bring some sort of work plan into how our soldiers work from the platoons to the battalions, from the battalions to the divisions to the divisions.
I really like the fact that you've really thought about what you plan to do when you become president. But let's not forget that it's a crowded field in the APC for those jostling for the #1 seat in the land. And the question to you right now, what are your chances? Looking at the plethora of aspirants, just like yourself.
First of all, I'm disappointed that only 25 people or 30 people bought the form. We expected at a minimum of 100 people. Yeah, because you see, in a
100 million with the country that
yes,
with our economy
actually,
right now
when you listen to our big brother, the leader of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, speak, he said, the more the merrier. Because you see, the country, the APC is a big party. It should present Nigerians with at least 100 people who are willing and capable to run this country. Because they all are capable. I look at all the governors, my very good friend Bello, who is probably our youngest, but he's strong, he's energetic. You want Badaru, you want Oji Kalu, Oji has not bought the form, Gigi has pulled out, Timi has pulled out. But there are many people here in Nigeria who are capable of running the country, but they need, nobody's going to run this country alone.
If it came down to a consensus and it didn't fall on you, would you be willing to line up behind?
I told you from the beginning that when I was given the assignment to, along with Adpanu Duendehen and the rest, to be the constitution drafting committee of this party, when we designed this party in 2013, we agreed that this party must be a platform for all shades of progressives. That's why we called it All Progressives Congress. It's a Congress. So anybody who is already in this family, whether you belong to a Libra shade, whether you're a Grand Alliance, whether you're the Congress of Progressive, we're now one party. So whoever becomes our candidate will draw his strength from across the board.
There's an issue here that's troubling to quite a number of people, the issue of the welfare of Nigerians in Russia, and how this whole, I mean, before we let you go, of course, we needed to put this in. And the question is that the Nigerian government is exposing innocent students to starvation in a foreign country. There is a backstory to it, of course. I mean, they're supposed to be paid monthly, but at the last time they got their allowance in August of last year. I wonder if you know anything about it, and what inputs have you made
the federal
to solve that?
The federal government runs a gamut of scholarship schemes. Some of them are done as bilaterals. In other words, the governments of those states, of those countries, have a contribution, and the Nigeria has an upkeep contribution. So when if there is a lockdown in the payment systems in one country, it will obviously affect how we receive them, or how our students there receive income. We try to evacuate as many of our students out of Ukraine. As soon as this started, you heard the Humanitarian Affairs Minister deploy, along with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, people to bring our students back, and a lot of them were. But those who are left in Russia, because of the SWIFT conundrum, because the Western allies, shut out Russia from the payment systems, and that will obviously affect how we deliver. But the Nigerian embassy in Russia, that's what I'm saying. We had already taken care of that tranche, but this is a continuous process. So people will still have issues around those at the moment.
But is it been worked on to ensure that the students get them?
That's what I'm saying now.
All right, so as we get ready to wrap up the conversation, of course, you've talked about ASU and education in general, which some people will still say, if you couldn't manage, the educational sector, how can you really manage?
We manage the education sector. The ASU is less than 10% of what the entire ASU.
I totally agree with you.
We've enrolled more than 3 million children in the last 3 years. We've done. We've done how many new universities? We've created new universities. We've done new polytechnics. We've improved curriculum. We've moved money into research. We've created a research grant of nearly 17.5 billion in Nigerian universities that are cross-border. In the ASU there are 70,000 persons in ASU who are paid by the federal government. But ASU is very important, but they're not all working.
I totally agree with you that they can be in the classrooms while all of these issues are sorted out. But as we get ready to wrap this up, education, security, you've touched on, but the economy, which is a big issue. How do you intend to, improve on what the current administration has done?
This is the area where everybody wants me to come. Because you see, you can't solve the social problems without the economic problems. Right. Nigeria has nearly 1,016 abandoned industries, which, if those who remember my writings from 1992 when I opposed privatization, I still believe that the best way to go about any economic plan is to put your people to work. And you do that with what the president had done. The president has already signed 2 executive orders that are very important in this administration that needs to then be implemented as we go forward. Number 1 is the local content executive order number 005, and the latest one he signed on maintenance, which will absorb the skills that we produce in the universities and in the polytechnics. Because without those 2 economies, you can't run a nation. And that is why it is important that we then begin to have people, Nigerians, employed within their system, and government makes a deliberate effort to buy locally made produce and make sure that that is payable. Otherwise, we will be losing money, and then all the little we make leaves the country. Dollar will then continuously be devalued. But if you create value within your system, which is what we do when people say Igbo people and their businesses, this is I think that's what they want to hire.
You bring that business.
I think that's what they want to hire at this point. Yeah.
Finally, are you the dark horse that may emerge? I mean, you've been
I'm probably not the. I'm a very
confident. No, just hold on. You've been a confidant of President Muhammadu Buhari since day 1. Are you the man that he's been holding close to his chest?
Well, I can't answer that because, you see, nobody can. The president has invited everybody to run. The president is a very broad-minded person. He's maybe not as loquacious as people like me are who talk anyhow. He doesn't talk anyhow. But there are people like the president who works on a set of principles. He has invited everybody, and I'm sure everybody is close to his heart. But he will do, and I know this from being with him for nearly 20 years. I joined him in 2022, when in 2002, when I was still a member of the House of Reps. And consistently, I trust his judgment, because I always know that he will eventually take decisions that are right for the country, because he's almost 78 now. He doesn't really worry except how to get Nigeria back to on track.
Chukwuemeka Nwajiuba, of course, former Minister of State for Education, and a man who believes Nigeria can get it right, getting a young president in that seat. We'll say thank you so much for joining us tonight, and all the best with your aspirations, really.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Good night.